I want to start off by reading this quote from DJ Smokey when he was on Sway in the Morning. And he was asked, how and why did hip hop start? And this was his answer. He said, our soldiers were coming home from Vietnam. We were tired of what we were hearing on the radio. We were tired of the gangs. So it was kind of a way to express ourselves without fighting each other, to build a party environment where we could all hang together. Puerto Ricans, blacks, Jamaicans, whatever, come together. And if you don't know who DJ Smokey is, as far as I'm concerned, he is one of the godfathers of hip hop. Yo, what's up, everybody? This is Vix representing the Mighty Zulu Kings, Original 13, ready to rock, and the BVD Rocking Crew. So I want to do this video today. I want to talk about, are Puerto Ricans co-creators in hip hop culture? I'm going to give you my case for why I believe that Puerto Ricans specifically are co-creators in hip hop culture. And I'm going to give you 4 major reasons. Before I do that, I want to define some key terms. The first key term is hip hop. Okay, a lot of people, when they hear the word hip hop, they think of the rap industry. They think about rap, the rap music genre. Hip hop is not that. Hip hop is an urban street culture that consists of 4 main elements. Graffiti, which originally was called writing, DJing, b-boying, and MCing. All right, so hip hop is not rap, but rap is hip hop. Second key term is co-create. And what does it mean to co-create? Co-create means to create something by working with one or more others. Okay, that's the Webster's Dictionary. Co-create, to create something by working with one or more others. Now, what co-create doesn't necessarily mean is that equal creators, equal shared, equal amounts of creating. I don't believe that, Puerto Ricans and blacks are necessarily 50-50. Okay, I believe that, the majority in the early days comes from the Black American community. And then you had also, to a lesser degree, Puerto Ricans and Caribbeans. So I don't believe that Puerto Ricans are necessarily equal in the sense of numbers. I like what Ruby D said, that the black community is the stars of the show. The Puerto Ricans were the co-stars. John Leguizamo said that, the black community is the Michael Jordan and the Puerto Ricans are the Scottie Pippens. We were the assists. Co-create, no, I don't believe we are 50-50 co-creators. But nonetheless, I do believe that Puerto Ricans did, in fact, help to lay the foundation for the creation of hip-hop. The third key term is Nuyoricans. So when we talk about Puerto Ricans in this conversation, we're talking about Nuyoricans. Okay, so a Nuyorican is a person of Puerto Rican birth or descent who is current or former resident of New York City. Okay, that also comes from Webster Dictionary. Nuyorican, a person of Puerto Rican birth or descent who is a current or former resident of New York City. So, we're not talking about Puerto Rican culture gave birth to hip hop, like directly. We're talking about Puerto Ricans that lived in New York, grew up in New York, was born in New York, and are Americans. Okay, so got the key terms out the way. Now I'm going to give you my 4 reasons why I believe Puerto Ricans are co-creators of hip-hop culture. Reason number 1, hip-hop culture was not born in a day, but developed over time. I would say the main concentration of development for hip-hop culture was from the years 1971 to 1977. In 1971, the Hoe Avenue Peace Treaty helped the largest gangs in the Bronx have peace and party together. Here's a quote from Cool DJ D. He says, if we would have still been fighting, DJs would not have been able to come out to the parks and play. The peace treaty helped everybody come together as one. So, this was one of the major milestones to help the early development of hip hop start. Okay, and now 1977, this is when you start to see all the elements come together in one. Here's a quote from Shah Rock. 1977 is the magic year when hip hop culture starts coming together, because you will hear people say it started in 71, it started in 73 or 74. Don't believe that, because all of the elements of the culture were not really put together. It was not celebrated. Okay, so that's Shah Rock. Here's another quote from Charlie Rock from the original Zulu Kings. He says, the definition of the word systems is a collection of elements who singularly would not describe the system. So, for example, you have an engine, right? And you have a wheel, right? And you have a battery. None of those things would define a car, would they? But if you put them together with some other parts, you would have a car, wouldn't you? That's a system. The car is the system. It contains a lot of elements. That's the same thing with what came to be known as hip hop. So in other words, you can't have one element here, one isolated element there, and hip hop as a culture didn't exist. It only existed when you had 4 elements come together as one. From what I could tell, that actually happens in 1977. Okay, reason number 1, hip hop culture was not born in a day but developed over time, mainly 1971 to 1977. Reason number 2, Nuyoricans are both Puerto Ricans and Americans. Puerto Ricans have been U.S. Citizens since 1917. Woodrow Wilson signed the Jones-Shafroth Act in 1917, March 2nd, giving Puerto Ricans U.S. statutory citizenship. The Great Migration, according to the Center of Puerto Rican Studies at the City University of New York, between 1940s and the mid-1960s, this influx grew the city's Puerto Rican population almost 13-fold, from 70,000 to nearly 900,000. Okay? This is from the History Channel. We're talking almost a century Puerto Ricans have been living, assimilating into American culture. Okay. Now here's a quote from Lord Jamar. He says, if I say Black Americans youth created hip-hop, that could mean Puerto Ricans. It could include Jamaicans, people of Jamaican ancestry, but you best believe you were born here. Puerto Ricans are part, Nuyoricans specifically, are, or in many cases, are part of the Black American culture. Now, this is reason number 3. Hip-hop evolved from gang culture. Okay, in the gang era, Puerto Ricans had the most gangs in NYC in the 70s, and many gangs were mixed with both black and Puerto Rican. The outlaw gangs are the X factor in hip hop's origins because this is where hip hop culture evolves from. The gangs invented the war dance called burning, which later became uprocking for Latinos and breaking or b-boying in the early black communities. These gangs who burned were both Puerto Rican and black, such as Black Spades, Savage Nomads, Savage Skulls, Chinglings, and many, many more. If there were no Puerto Ricans, there would be no gang culture. Without gang culture, you would have no hip hop. So Puerto Ricans played a huge role in the gang culture in the 70s. And it's out of that gang culture that hip hop is born. The gang era led to the crew era, which is what later became known as hip hop. Okay, you can't have hip hop without crews. The gangs turned into crews. Okay, so any gang that turned into a crew in the 70s, as far as I'm concerned, is part of the foundation. A couple examples: the Black Spades, the original Black Spades, First Division turned into Chuck City Crew. The Baby Spades turned into the Zulu Kings. The Peacemakers turned into Fun City Crew. Family Force turned into Seven Deadly Sins. RCA turned into Rockwell Association. Flying Dutchman turned into TDK, and many, many more, which most of these, if not all of these gangs, had both black and Puerto Rican. And lastly, reason number 4, all of the elements of hip hop had Puerto Ricans, or specifically Nuyoricans, who laid foundation to the creation of hip hop. Okay, all of the elements of hip hop had Nuyoricans who laid the foundation, who helped to lay the foundation to the creation of hip hop. First element is writing, commonly known as graffiti. Julio 204 was one of the first writers in New York City who started writing in 1967. He was the inspiration to Taki 187, who is referred to as the father of graffiti. So Taki 187 is referred to as the father of graffiti, and his inspiration was a Puerto Rican named Julio 204. So you can't get more foundational than that. Oh, there was many, many more Puerto Rican or Nuyorican graffiti writers that laid foundation, but I don't have to go any further for that. DJs, you have Tex DJ Hollywood, who started DJing with Disco King Mario somewhere around 1972. You have Disco Wiz, who started DJing with Grandmaster Caz around 1975. You have Charlie Chase, of course, one of the baddest DJs from the 70s, and he started around 1976 or 77. And you have DJ Lele, who comes around somewhere around 1977. Okay, B-Boys. Now this is the element that has the biggest contributions, probably besides graffiti. And okay, starting off with B-Boy Spy, the first to create floor rocking. This was the first person who created floor rocking in 1972 in the Bronx. Okay, he was Puerto Rican. Okay, now you have Smokey and the Smokatrons, 1972, they started. From what I understand, many, many, many Latinos. Out of all of the early groups, they had the most Latinos. Just to give you a couple names, Troy Maldonado, who taught Pebbly Poo how to break. And then you had Bozark, just to name a couple. Powwow and Marcus Rockwell were B-boys who traveled all over the Bronx. And They influenced the Zulu Kings. And Powell says in an interview with Norrin Rad that in the early days, Smokey and the Smokatrons, they had the best b-boys. Then you get to 1973, the Black Spades breaks up, and BAM starts with the permission of Monk, the leader of the Black Spades. He creates Zulu in 1973, just the name Zulu. And the original the first five Zulu Kings was originally called the Zulu Dancers, which started in 1973, and by 1975 they became the Zulu Kings. Okay, the Zulu Kings had 11 members, one of which, B-Boy Boyo, he was Puerto Rican. And then you had the Little Zulu Kings, who Beaver was a part of. And one of the B-Boys in the Little Zulu Kings was Little Zambu, who learned from Big Zambu, who was the original first five. And his name was Peter Garcia, and he was Puerto Rican. Kool Herc invents the merry-go-round, which was one of the most pivotal events to shape hip-hop, no doubt. And the first b-boys were coined, and this happens at the Kivalo around 1974-75. Okay, the first b-boys to hit the floor heavy at Kool Herc's parties. Many people regard them as some of the first b-boys ever. Okay, you have I would include b-boy Sasa, the Twins, and Clark Kent. Okay, they are considered some of the first b-boys, and with them was a guy named Johnny Cool, who was a Latino brother. He was Dominican, and they were the Twins. Clark Kent and Johnny Cool all came from DJ Smokey's parties. Now, around 1975-76, you have the Nomadic B-Boys, okay, which DXT, Booski, and Pablo were all Puerto Rican. Okay, these are the Nomadic B-Boys, first generation B-Boys, without a doubt. And I just want to say that the majority of the first generation B-Boys were black, no doubt about it. But that's not to say that they were not Latinos, and Latinos did help to lay the foundation in a majority black community. Okay, now you had the Floor Masters from Manhattan, who created the Floor Master Tops with the leader Little Zip, and he was Puerto Rican. And you also have from Manhattan Rock City Crew, their leader Charlie Rock, he was Puerto Rican. Now you have Batch. Batch in 1975 turns TBB Graffiti Crew to TBB Rockin' Crew. And this was the first mostly Puerto Rican crew, rocking crew in the Bronx, 1975. By 1977, the foundational B-Boy crews came out. Okay, these are the foundational B-Boy crews. So you have Rockwell Association, you have TDK, you have CC Crew, you have the Seven Deadly Sins, Star Child LaRock, the Mexican Crew, Dynamic Rockers, and the Floor Masters, which later became the New York City Breakers. These crews laid the foundation for what b-boying would be. They codified the dance. They created the foundation of the dance. There's no doubt the black community, they created the idea, and these foundational b-boy crews from 1977, they codified the moves and created the foundation. And it's because of that codification of moves that b-boying has lasted till this day. So if it wasn't for these crews codifying the dance, there would be no breaking today. That's a fact. There would be no breaking today. Okay, we're talking about, Batch, who created the 3-step, Spy, who created the 6-step, and the air swipe. You got JoJo, who created the first backspin. Kid Freeze, who created the continuous headspin. Crazy Legs, who created the windmill, and on and on and on. All these crews, they really codified the dance, and they created the foundational moves that are the basis for modern breakdancing or b-boying. Okay, so lastly but not least, the MCs. So in 1975, Grandmaster Flash invents the quick mix theory. In 1976, Grandmaster Flash and the 3 MCs are born, and MCing is born. They say that Coke La Rock was the first MC, but Melly Mel, Cowboy, and Kid Creole, they were the first to actually make rap verses. They had rhymes to rhythm to the beat in the hip-hop context. MCing becomes an art form. In the same year, Ruby D, who's Puerto Rican, he begins rapping. Whip Whip, 1977. Devastating Tito, 1977. Okay, so out of all the elements, probably MCing has the least amount of Puerto Ricans. Okay, but nonetheless, they were still there at the early stages of MCing. When MCing was born the same year, they were a part of it. All the elements of hip-hop had Puerto Ricans laying the foundation. Like Julio 204, you had like B-Boy Spy, you had Ruby D, and you had Tex DJ Hollywood. Okay, just to name some of the earliest ones. So, I want to talk about a couple objections. Puerto Ricans did not mix with blacks. This is not true. It's just simply not true. Yes, there were some Puerto Ricans who did not like blacks, just like some blacks did not like Puerto Ricans. But in generally speaking, Puerto Ricans and blacks, they lived together. They lived in the same buildings. They lived in the same communities. They identified with each other. And the proof of that is in the gang. Look at the gang culture. You have Savage Skulls, the Savage Nomads, the Ghetto Brothers, all these, even the Black Spades, they had both black and Puerto Ricans. Some people might say, oh, well, the Puerto Ricans, they're trying to take the credit from the black community. They're trying to erase the history. They're trying to, attack. This is an attack on black culture. I would say, no, it actually does nothing. It takes nothing away from the black community to admit or give credit to Puerto Ricans for helping them create hip-hop culture. In fact, it actually shows unity, and it adds to the black community and makes it stronger. It shows unity, and it shows strength. Especially in a world that's so divisive and so racially charged. And that is the energy that created hip-hop to get away from the racism and the division. Okay, so like I said, the evidence is in the gangs. You look at the gangs from Savage Skulls, Savage Nomads, Black Spades, the Ghetto Brothers. They all had blacks and Puerto Ricans in their gangs. So to say that blacks didn't mix with Puerto Ricans is just false. And the evidence shows that they did. Okay, hip hop is black culture. Some might object. Hip hop is black culture. Um, I say that hip hop. I say that the black culture is one of the main influences to hip hop, but it's not the only influence. Um, you have, like I said, gang culture was a huge influence. Um, you have um, you have Latin music influence a lot of the breaks. You have um, certain aspects. DJ culture. I mean, the DJ world. You had a lot of Italians. That were pioneering mixing, like Nick Sayano and others. So yes, black culture is definitely a dominant factor, especially when it comes to the funk music. There's no doubt about it. But at the same time, hip hop is not a, a genre. Rap is a genre, and they call rap hip hop. But what I'm talking about is hip hop culture, which has nothing to do necessarily with rap, the genre. Okay, we have rap genre and you have hip hop culture. Okay, so hip hop culture is a subculture. Okay, it's not it's not an ethnicity. It's a subculture. It's a street culture. It's discipline. It's like skateboarding. Okay, skateboarding. You don't see people arguing which race created skateboarding because it doesn't matter. It's a discipline. Um, so hip hop is a discipline. It's a subculture. It's a street culture. Um, it's not a musical genre like jazz, salsa, uh, blues, R&B. No, there is a hip hop genre, and there's no doubt that is primarily that comes from the black community. But when we're talking about hip hop culture, you have to deal with New York, you have to deal with the Bronx, you have to deal with street gangs, you have to deal with Puerto Ricans, Nuyoricans, you have to deal with the elements, you got to deal with b-boying, okay, who again was codified. The foundational crews codified the dance to make it what it is today. So, in my opinion, it's a tag team. You have the black community who created the idea, which some Puerto Ricans, were a minority in doing that. And then you have the idea and the foundational moves and the manifestation of that, okay, which that is what made the dance sustainable. Okay, that is done by the Puerto Ricans, Nuyoricans, were the majority, and then you have blacks as a minority in doing that. So it was a tag team effort. Again, hip hop started to develop in 1971, and then culminated in 1977 as a unified culture. So tag team effort, blacks and Puerto Ricans, peanut butter and jelly. Okay, so that's just what it is. And so final remarks, I would say, one thing that I find hypocritical is that pioneers are being discredited as laying foundation for hip hop based on their ethnicity. So, for example, you got Grandmaster Cass. Nobody ever questions whether he laid any foundation or was a part of the creation. Nobody ever questions if Grandmaster Cash Grandmaster Cass helped to lay the foundation of the creation. Nobody ever questioned it. Now you have his DJ partner, Disco Wiz, and just because he's Puerto Rican descent, all of a sudden, his credentials in contributing to the creation are being in question. Okay, that's a double standard and it's hypocritical. Okay, you know, nobody ever questions if, well, some people question Disco King Mario, but of the base of, not of the base of whether he's because he's black or not. Hip hop is not, hip hop, the barometer of whether you're hip hop, of how hip hop you are, has nothing to do with your skin color or your ethnic background. Okay, hip hop is a merits based discipline. It's a merit based discipline. It's based on your skills, not your skin color, not your ethnicity. Okay, if you're hip hop, if you can bring to the table your skills, okay, that's what makes you something in this culture. Not just because you're Puerto Rican or you're black, all of a sudden you're the culture. That's, black culture is not synonymous with hip hop culture. Even though hip hop culture comes with the black community, were the ones who perpetuated the majority of hip hop's creation. But a lot of black people don't like hip hop and never did. So hip hop culture is not based on skin color or ethnicity. Hip hop culture is based in your merits of your discipline.